read recently a story of an encounter between an airline pilot and an air traffic controller at LaGuardia International Airport. And what actually ended up happening is actually a U.S. air flight that was leaving from LaGuardia, which if you've ever flown into New York, it's a little bit crazy, okay, a little cray. But they were flying from New York to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so it's this U.S. Airways flight. And what ended up happening was that as it was taxiing along, sort of took the wrong turn on the jetway and actually came nose to nose with the United Airlines 727. Now, I don't know about you, but when you're getting a little fender bender like in your neighborhood or whatever, 10 miles an hour, no big deal. Aircraft are not supposed to have fender benders on the tarmac, okay? And so that's basically what was happening. And so what was actually recorded was the conversation between the air traffic controller and the actual pilot who made the wrong turn. And as you'll see, I'm going to read the transcript to you of what actually transpired. Clearly, there's a little angst that's going on. So this irate female ground controller, she's just blasting the crew like crazy, and she said this. She says, US 2771, where are you going? I told you to turn right onto Charlie Taxiway, and you turned right onto Delta Taxiway. Now, I know you pilots have a hard time with your C's and D's, okay? So she's already ticked. But she's like, but try to get it right. And so she's broadcasting this. So it's not just the pilot that's hearing this. All of the air traffic going into and out of LaGuardia Airport, New York, is hearing her go off. And she just continues to just berate these guys. She says this, you have screwed up everything. And when I tell you, I want you to go exactly where I tell you, when I tell you, and how I tell you. You got that, US Air 2771? And the pilot kind of sheepishly responds, yes, ma'am. Okay? Now, by this time, the entire frequency has been dominated by this interaction between the air traffic controller, this lady's ticked, talking to this male pilot, and it's now stone quiet. No one, everybody's afraid to hey, by the way, where am I supposed to go? Nobody's talking to the lady because she's mad. You can kind of sense the tension in the airport. And then, I love it. There's this period of total silence, and then one unnamed pilot, you don't know who it is, not the guy that is in trouble. It's just some other guy just kind of pipes in with a one-liner, and he says this. He's like, wasn't I married to you once? Oh, I read that. I was like, that's just beautiful. I had to share that with you. Not a lot of love floating around in the air around LaGuardia Airport. My wife had the unlucky occasion of going to the DMV this week. How many people love going to the DMV? She had to go get her license renewed. And this is just if you want your love tank filled, you need to go to the DMV, right? I don't know what it is about that place. It's like a leper colony down there or something. It's just crazy. But she needed to go get her license renewed, and so she went. She went way early. She actually went an hour before they opened so that she could be the very first person in line. Then when the doors opened, she actually calls me from line, and you can almost hear the crowd is starting to amble in from wherever they come from, and you can hear okay, it's getting ready to go down. You can almost hear the tension, and she walks up and she goes to the teller, very brand new. They just opened the door, and she's like, I need to get my license renewed, and the immediate response from the DMV employee is absolute fury. She's just already mad, go fill this out, I'm silent. Right? And so she calls me, she's like, the day just started. How can you be that mad already? But that's just the nature, not a lot of love floating around the DMV. I actually believe that actually it will be a lot more pleasant visiting hell than visiting the DMV, and the line's actually shorter going into hell, so that's good. But here's the thing, is there's an awful lot of people wandering around these days experiencing love at a lot lower level than they probably wish they were. There's a ton of relational unhealth in our world today. A lot of unbalanced lives that are missing out on really what love could be. And our theme scripture for today is found in Colossians chapter 3, verse 14. Paul writes, above all, clothe yourselves with love. Circle above all. He says, because love binds everything together in perfect harmony. So if you wanted to know what to prioritize above everything else that you have in your life, he says, above all, go clothe yourself with love. Now, that's not happening much down at the DMV. It may not be happening much in your home. May not be a lot of that cruising around in your marriage. I'm guessing your work life could stand a couple of notches a little more love. How's your family, extended family relationships? Gets a little janky, gets a little messed up sometimes, doesn't it? And when we don't clothe ourselves in love, what Paul is saying is what ensues is really chaos. When love is present, it binds us together in perfect harmony. When it's not there, not so good. Now, I didn't just fall into my closet this morning and emerge fully dressed. Okay, now some of you are like, you could have fooled me. But I actually went, it was dark when I went to go get dressed. So I literally had a flashlight. And so I'm actually glad that I actually have black shoes and a black shirt and not like some other combo. But I actually made a conscious choice of okay, I'm going to wear this today. I didn't just fall into it. What Paul is saying is to clothe yourselves. There's an intentionality to it. And the Bible actually talks about how love can be brought together in harmony because there's lots of different aspects of love that need to be bound together for us. Now, our English word for love, we have one word, love, and it kind of encapsulates everything. The Bible's kind of cool in that it uses multiple different words to describe love, and it draws out some meaning for us of what really needs to be harmonized together to bind us together. And I want to look at love in its various forms. You can jot a few of these things down. What does love look like in healthy harmony? The first word the Bible talks about is the word phileo. Write that in. That's brotherly love. Phileo. It's like a phileo fish, okay? Phileo. Phileo is connectivity. It's the warm side of love. It's the companionship side of love. It means brotherly love. That's why Philadelphia is known as the city of brotherly love. Philadelphia, okay? Now, if you've been to Philly, you may question whether that's an accurate term for that city, but be that as it may. If you're going to live in a healthy expression of love, you need expressions of, you need to receive it and give it brotherly, compassionate, companionship love. That's phileo. The second one is storge love. That's affectionate love. Storge. This is the kind of love that shows fondness. It shows up a lot in family context, although it's not only in family context. But just to give you an idea of what the perfect kind of picture of storge love is the picture of a parent for their child. It's tenderness. It's gentleness. Okay? That's storge. You need it. I need it. We need to express it. We need to receive it. The next one's perhaps the most famous. That's eros. That's passionate love. Okay, we all know this one. This is the word that we get the word erotic from in the Greek. Eros is the Greek word that we get erotic from. This is the hot side of love. This is the passionate side of love. This is the sexual side of love. This is the Barry White side of love. This is tenderoni. This is a little less talk, a little more action side of love. Okay? This is the work side of love. Okay? Yeah, I'm getting so many shaking heads I cannot believe you just did that in church. You're not supposed to. So if you know that song, it is, okay, if you don't know the song, don't go look it up because you're not missing out on anything. But that's what eros love is. That's passionate love. The next one is agape. It's unconditional love. This is the love that I probably should have mentioned earlier before I did work, okay, because everybody's thinking about that. It's seared into their mind. But agape is the unconditional, initiative-taking love of God. Absolutely, so generous and unconditional to you. This is the love that Jesus extends to you and to me. He poured it out on us. It's agape love. It's unconditional. It's the love that says nothing that you will ever do is going to make God love you any less. It's just out there. It's lavish and it's abundant. God's incredible love for you. and for me. But I want to talk with you a little bit about this last one, which is a love that you may not be as familiar with. And it's an Old Testament word. It's the word hesed. Write that in. Hesed. It's a covenant love. Hesed is the love that anchors a promise in the sight of God. Hesed is a love that invites God to come right into the center of a relationship. Great marriages have all five of these loves functioning in their midst well. But they're founded and really principled upon this hesed love, which is a covenant love. And it's a little different than what you might think. See, because I think in our common cultural sort of understanding of even something like marriage, we think about marriage as a contract, not as a covenant. And I want to draw out the distinctions of why it is so radically different. There's a lot of married people operating in their marriage as though they're in a contract, and they really ought not to be in a contract. Because what it was always intended to be was a covenant. A contract is something that you enter into in business, but honestly, it is founded on mutual distrust. We're gonna line this out and put it all like down on paper, because I don't totally trust that you're gonna do what you're supposed to do, so I'm gonna like put it in writing, and we're all gonna sign, right? Better hold up your end of the contract. It's built on mutual distrust. And the reason that we're having a contract is so that our interests can be secured. I'm going to protect myself and my interests. We got a contract. A covenant is way different. A covenant is about a mutual commitment where our stuff, our interests are not secured, they're actually surrendered. It's a big difference. Covenant is all about me giving of my own interests so that the other person can sense my commitment and my investment. Not I'm trying to prenup my way into a place of security. Contracts are really all about leaving room for loopholes. Covenants demand loyalty. When you're in a bad contract, what do? You try to get out of it. When you're having a hard time, in a rough time in your covenant, you find a way to get through it. That's the difference. This would be the game-changer philosophy and way of looking at life for most married couples when they're going through difficult things, is if they would see their relationship not as a contract to be gotten out of, but as a covenant to be worked through, it would change their whole outlook. Contracts are about defending, they're about selfishness. Covenant is about supporting and about selflessness. You're like me, you've probably been to scores and scores of wedding ceremonies. There's certain seasons of life, especially in your 20s, it feels like you're at a wedding like every other afternoon. I don't know what it is. It's like everybody's getting married at the same time. But we've all been to wedding ceremonies. Did you know that the wedding ceremony is actually a biblically derived ceremony that actually started long time ago? It's an Old Testament ceremony of covenant. They used to say vows, and we say vows today. In ancient times, they would actually, part of the ceremony, they would take an animal. This is kind of gruesome, but it's true. They would take an animal, they would cut it in half, put it on two different sides, and the couple would walk between the carcass, literally saying symbolically, may this happen to us if we break the covenant. It was known as the walk of death. Do you notice how in every wedding ceremony, most couples don't realize they're doing it, but they're doing the walk of death? That is what it symbolizes, to have the two families on each side and they walk through the middle of the carcass. Yeah, it kind of gives you a new appreciation for the term red carpet treatment. Okay, that's what's going on here. And the rings that are I wear this wedding ring from the moment that I married my wife. Well, it's actually not the moment, because this is the second one. The first one is at the bottom of Lake Berryessa because it fell off my hand. But the second one was the keeper. And the second one, what does this represent? This represents the eternal promise, the covenant love, that isn't based on what she does. It's based on the decision that I made. I made the decision that forever I'm going to love her in that way. The man who waits for his wife at the end of the aisle. You know, when the bride walks down and everyone stands, and he's standing there waiting for his bride to come down the aisle. You know what he's there for? What it actually, like the actual symbolism of that? It's actually in preparation. Him waiting there for his wife is actually preparation for all of the hours he's going to wait for his wife at the mall when she's trying on clothes. It's in the Bible, like it's biblical, okay? But covenant love says this. It invites Jesus into the process of my relationship, maybe like I've never done ever before. And there is no back door to the relationship. That door's been locked and bricked over, and like it's not even, there's stucco on that sucker. It's not even a door. And it invites Jesus to help me through it. Hesed love means loving my spouse the way Jesus modeled it. And he did, in fact, model it. Look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. It says, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Now, this really isn't a marriage talk today, although if the shoe fits, go for it, good for you. But today is really about looking at a love that God is inviting us into in lots of different aspects and area of our lives, then what God's wanting to see built into me is a love that is actually healthy and harmonious. He's asking me to clothe myself in love, which binds me together in perfect harmony. How do I do that? And in fact, it's not just a sort of suggestion, gee, this might be neat from Jesus. It's actually a command of Jesus. Did you know that? Look at what Jesus says in his own words in John 13, verse 34. He says, a new command I give you. Circle command. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. There's no out clause in that. There's no back door in that. A new command I'm giving you. Love one another. Do it healthy. Do it right. Do it the way I model it. I'm going to give you lots of different stuff from my word on what that actually looks like, but go love one another. But the problem is that some of us even hear that and we go like, well, I've already tried that and it didn't work out well for me. I've already put myself out there to love somebody and I got hurt. And now that's broken. And now they're not even around anymore. And it might be in a relationship with a parent that's now you're ostracized from them. It might be because of a marriage relationship that just snapped in half a long time ago. And you're just dealing with the hard fallout of that. I tried that one time. And it didn't pan out all that well with me. The door slammed in my face. So I'm out. Forget it. And I want to encourage you in something. Because as I was reflecting on this and prepping this week, just going, you know what? Yeah, but there's got to be more to it than that. There's a hope in here, right, Lord? Because it's not just like telling me what to do. There's got to be more to it. You've got something for me, right? And then it dawned on me. Ever gone to a hotel and you checked in and you got your little, electronic key, the little credit card thing, and then you go get in the elevator and you ride to like the 87th floor. It's always like a long way away. You walk all the way down the hallway and you got your key. You come to your door, you slide it into the door and you get the blink blink and it's red lights. You ever had that happen to you? Oh man, I hate that. And then I try to put it in again. Blink blink, red lights. Beep 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 beep. And I'm doing this in the door. Now, if you're like me, you start talking to the door. Like, oh, you did not just do this to me, dude. Like, well, I walked all the way up here, I grabbed all my back. Oh, you got to be kidding. And then I start getting mad. I start foaming at the mouth. I start convulsing on the ground, right? So it's like I'm shoving the same key in and out 87 different times. Now, do you know that never even one time, as frustrated as I have ever gotten, that's happened to me multiple times, I have never taken my bags from that door, or that broken lock, or that lame-o key. I have never taken my bags, gotten back in my car, and driven home. That's never happened to me. You know what I do? I do the same thing you've done. You go back to where you got the keys, right? You get a new key. Hopefully that works this time. And you go back up to the same door. You put it in. Hopefully you got green lights and you get in your door. Never one time have I ever gone back to the front desk and they've said, you know what? You have a faulty room. We're going to give you a different room. They've never given me a different room ever. They just give me the right key. And here's what I'm trying to give you today, is that you're probably looking at relationship situations. When you start talking about people that you need to love, my guess is you've got more than a few people that are a little challenging in that category. Like you have tried the key a couple of times and all you're getting is blinking red lights and you're like, door slamming in my face, forget it. But have you ever done that and then gone home? No. You go just get another key. And you come and you try that thing again, and then when the door opens, you move forward. So who is that person in your life that needs to be loved? Because loving at a whole new level won't require going and finding a new person. It's just going to likely require a new key. And so if in your marriage, you might need a new marriage. You don't necessarily need a new spouse in order to get a new marriage. We need new keys. And this is true of all kinds of different relationships, not just marriage. Ever been estranged from someone that you really love? Don't need a new person, need a new key. That might be at work. With that person just on your last, they're like trampolining on your last nerve. Maybe just you going back and forth and talking to the door ain't working anymore, but we need a new key. And so loving at a whole new level is all about that. And I want to give you 3 that I think the scriptures teach us of how we can take that love to a whole new level. How can we live and walk into love that's healthy in all different aspects of our life? Here's the first one that we can do. Number 1, check my attitude. Love has everything to do with the condition of my heart. It has far less to do with the behavior of the other person. What I just told you just now is worth the price of admission today. Love has everything to do with the condition of my heart. It has far less to do with the behavior of the other person. Because when it comes to our attitude, what's on the inside of you right now, it's coming out when you're in a relationship. That's what brings it out of us. And so allow myself to introduce myself, okay? This is me. I have the blue beads. This is my wife, Jen. She has pink beads. She's beautiful and lots of fun at parties and effervescent in most all the things that she does. This is her. And we now have a clear mugs. This is us. And here's what I do. I've got lots of good stuff inside me, as does she. There's little beads, and they look like just polished awesomeness, really. But there's other things that I put into my cup, and you do the same thing. My mug is filled with some lame-o choices sometimes. My mug's filled with attitude problems. You have any of those? I put all kinds of other junk in my life and stresses and other things like that, and quite honestly, so does she. And so what ends up happening in our relationship is, we're cruising out. We're a party waiting to happen, can't you tell? And we do this, and we love each other, and we support each other, and we make lots of great steps. But invariably, because we live in the same house and we're in close proximity to one another, we occasionally bump into one another, sometimes harder than others. And what happens is like your house when, it's not all just cheers and we're having a happy family. Sometimes we collide. And all that stuff of whatever was inside comes out. My marriage isn't any different than your relationships. Whatever's in you comes out when you're in conflict. See what I'm saying? That is what happens all the time. And so invariably what starts to happen, though, is I don't look at my cup and try to figure out the stuff in me that needs to maybe switch out, that maybe isn't polished awesomeness. Invariably, what I do is I'm constantly looking at her cup saying, you bumped into me and made a mess. What is wrong with you, you mug bumper? Like you are the reason. You are to blame. Very few of us take our own mug, come over here and actually go like, oh man, look at that. How'd that get in there? I got to get rid of that. That one's bad. We don't do that. We blame other people. How much time, instead of looking at your own mug, do you spend monitoring the behavior of someone else? I'm guessing it's more than you'd like to admit. We always blame the other person when our cocktail is the one on the floor. We always do that. You drive me insane. I'm sick of your mug. I'm going to go find another mug that's better than your mug because I deserve better than that. And we rarely look at our own. And so one of the keys of taking love to a whole new level is checking our attitude. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I got to take care of my mug here a little bit and actually monitor a little bit about what's in the inside of that, because when I end up bumping into people, if it's good, guess what comes out? Good. When it's bad, I make a mess. And so do you. Ever lost your cool on a drive-through person that didn't get, you ordered 3 tacos and they gave you 2? What you bumped into, not so, you're monitoring their behavior when what you really need to be doing is checking your own attitude, because that's where the problem really is most of the time. Here's the second thing we got to do. Bridle my behavior. I got to bridle it. I got behavioral stuff, and it isn't all pretty. I love how blunt the Bible can be sometimes. The Apostle John, he doesn't pull any punches. Look at what he says in 1 John 3. He says, let us stop just saying we love people. Let us really love them and show it by our bumper stickers. Let's show it by our word wear and the cool t-shirts we wear about how awesome things are. Let's show it by all of our lip service. No, he says let's show it by our actions. And every person who's fogging a mirror in here today has struggled with this one. This is part of the human condition. You give yourself the permission to behave in ways that are completely contrary to a constructive, healthy relationship. You do. I do. And some switch gets flipped in our own head, and it's like all of a sudden we have been granted a license to kill. You mug bumper? Fine. You want that? Let's bring it. And you go there in your own head. I do it, you do it. We've believed the lie that we deserve to indulge that darker impulse in us. Well, they had it coming. Well, that's just the way that I am. If you didn't like it, you shouldn't have even been my friend. That's how I am. You know I react like that, so, right? We do that. We let our behavior run wild, like a wild Mustang without a bridle. And then we wonder why we get bucked off of our relationships. And we're the ones that did it to ourselves. It's because we haven't bridled our behavior out of a pursuit of covenant love, that hesed love. Ephesians 5:21 says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Bridle your behavior. You submit to one another out of a reverence for Jesus. And that's a hard one for us. You know why? Because what's implied is that I don't get always my way. And I always love getting my way. And it just doesn't work like that. That's what has to be in place. I got to check my attitude for sure, but then I got to start bridling my behavior, because if I don't, I'm just shoving a broken key in the lock and then wondering why the door's not opening. I got a broken key. The way Jesus operates is he comes and he challenges me and he says, hey, Dan, check your attitude a little bit, because you guard your heart. Because it's the wellspring of life. It's everything that's going on in your life. It's starting right there at your heart. And then submit yourself to one another out of reverence for Christ. You got to bridle that behavior, because that door's going to be just standing blinking red in your face until you do. And then here's the third one. I have to commit with unshakable resolve. Love only lasts as long as the commitment that it's built upon. Let me say that again. Love only lasts as long as the commitment that it's built upon. So my question is, what have you committed to? Commitment is going to require an unshakable resolve. And let me put a real fine point on what that actually is going to look like. An unshakable resolve is going to require an F word that you don't like to use all the time: forgiveness. Colossians 3:13 says, "Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." Did you catch the F word? We bear with one another. We make an unshakable commitment. And the hard, sad truth about most relationships, that failure happens when somebody quits. Somebody has to quit in order for it to fail. You ran out of brotherly love. I was like fresh out of affectionate love. Passionate love? Eros love? I left the building a long time ago. Like Barry White, haven't heard that guy in a long time. Agape love, you may have never even experienced agape love. And so this sort of commitment love is starting to wear thin. All right, so forget it, I quit. And if that's you, especially in your marriage, just for a second, I want to give you a powerful truth in just a second. But really, this so applies in every relationship, relational health in our life. You're estranged from that parent and you haven't talked to him in years. I got a truth for you that's going to rock your world. That person at work that's on your last nerve, the sibling relationship that's strained, you love them, but man, they're killing you right now. You're picturing that person in your mind. This is the game changer truth, that if we will install this, these keys come together to unlock the door. Here's the truth. Loving at a whole new level means inviting Jesus into the center of your relationship. Whatever that relationship is. You cannot do what needs to be done to bring full health and full vitality to your relationship all by yourself. You cannot do this alone. It means you invite Jesus into the center of your life to bring health to your relationship, because he's the one who brings true relational health. And he wants to do that in your marriage, and he wants to do that in your family relationships, and he wants to show up and change stuff at work, and he wants to invade your friendships and just tweak the way you go about it altogether. He wants to be at the center. And when he does come to the center, love goes to a whole new level. But you've got to go get some help in order to do that. See, a lot of us just go, yeah, that's really, really good. And we just keep shoving the same broken key in the same old lock. And I've done it a million times. Remember, I'm the guy that does it 87 times, talks to the door, starts physically assaulting the door, and is foaming at the mouth in about 5 minutes. But I got to go back to the place where the keys get handed out and get a key that works in the door and invite Jesus to come into the center of my relationship. I got to check my attitude because I'm not all polished awesomeness inside. And I got to bridle my behavior and not give myself the permission to just run like wildfire through the people in my life, but I actually submit myself out of reverence for Christ to the people in my life. And I make a commitment that's going to require some pretty radical steps, but I invite Jesus to come into the center of my relationship. Now, I want you to think about the person that's the most precious relationship in your life, or the person that's the most challenging relationship in your life. They might be the same person, by the way. Oftentimes they are. Now, you might be sitting next to that person today. And if you are, this is a great time to be very, very still. Do not point, do not allude to, sit still. But I want you to consider who that person is, and I want you to consider the space that you are separated by right now. Now, that person may not be with you today, may be very, very far away from you. In fact, may very well represent the enormous distance that is between you and that person. Whether they're here or whether they're not, I want to ask you to do something that will seriously rock your relational life. Would you be willing to invite Jesus to come and occupy that very space between you and that person? This space, here. Jesus, come and be a part of the covenant relationship here. I am inviting you to come and be in the mix, be in the center of it. See, because when Jesus shows up, what he brings is his keys. His word says, behold, I have set before you an open door that no man can shut. He doesn't do red blinking lights. He opens doors in his powerful name. He restores relationship by the authority of his Holy Spirit, by his mending ability to put people back together. You've probably got a relationship in your life that could really seriously stand a little more Jesus in the middle of it. And I don't want to leave here today without praying for you specifically and praying for that relationship, that one relationship. Because I believe Jesus wants to come into the center of it and radically transform it. Set open wide that door. So would you bow your heads with me just real quick and let's pray. Jesus, we struggle. We collide into one another, and what's on the inside comes out, and it's not always polished awesomeness. In fact, a lot of times it's nothing even close. And today we're making the decision to step intentionally towards you, to clothe ourselves in love that will then bind us together in perfect harmony. So I'm praying for marriage relationships that are represented in this room. I'm praying for work relationships that are represented as people listen on this podcast and online and other places. I'm praying for family dynamics and siblings that are estranged and moms and dads that just aren't on the same page and all the different kinds of cocktails of relationships that we have in our life. And Lord, I just pray that you would come into the center of it. We don't know how to do it on our own. We've tried our keys. We're inviting you to come with yours. Help us to check our attitude and bridle our behavior. And then we're stepping towards you to make the commitment, the Hesed covenant love commitment to you. And we trust you to bring about a healing and bring about a health in our relationships. In Jesus' name, amen.